This book was one of the ones that was submitted through the DWA reviews sign-up form, and I had read quite a few horrors in sequence, and I wanted to read something a little bit different. So I thought, well, why not read a sci-fi? And this was the first one that I came to. I came up with a very interesting tagline for this book when I reviewed it. I'll tell you what that was in a bit, but I'll tell you about the book first. So the book is called The Paradox Legion, and it is the first in a trilogy that comes under the Starforged Empire universe, I guess. And it follows Titus, who is a guy who is preparing to make a pitch to get into a university. But he has to attend an event that celebrates the opening of this new lab at the university, and his brother is giving the speech at this event. Now, when they go to this event, Titus and his entire family die. The lab explodes and they all are killed. But Titus wakes up in a place called the Timescape, which is basically a desert without a sky. It's made of sand, and the sand is time, like the sand in an hourglass. And Titus discovers that he has the ability to reset time and change his own fate and the fate of others that he's involved with, which means he has the chance to save his family, except it doesn't go as planned. The first time he goes back to save his brother and he fails, his brother still dies. And there's only one way for him to try again. He has to die himself, which means he has to, himself. And his little sister sees him do it. And the ruling is, if somebody sees you off yourself, and I use that term as a kind of platform-friendly term, and somebody sees you do it, they remember on the next cycle. So that's traumatic enough. But Titus is what is called a time caster, and he has the abilities to essentially manipulate time. Now, all timecasters have to go to the Omni Tempore, which is a military legion that protects the Reclam Empire. And they are one of the most elite organizations that you can be a part of. But during his training, an assassin tries to take out Titus. And they appear in every trial that he goes through. But there's something deeper behind that. And he has to kind of figure out what this is. Now, the tagline I gave for this book is, and in my head, when I said this, I had Tony Stark in Infinity War saying this. Like when Spider-Man turns up and he says, "What's going on, Mr. Stark?" And he says, basically, there's these aliens trying to steal a necklace from a wizard. In my brain, that's what I had going when I said, it's time wizards doing Hunger Games in space. That's what I tagged this with. The whole book is fantastic. I absolutely adored this story. It has been a very long time since I read a sci-fi that has captivated me like this. The last one was Red Rising, and it does have some Red Rising sort of feels to it. The characters are very well written, and you kind of care about them all, maybe except for Titus's father and mother, because they don't really seem to be good people. But his sister is adorable. Everybody would want a sister like that. Ilari is just, you want to give her a big hug. The brother is a more difficult one to describe because you gradually see him descend from this great, wonderful promise for the future into sort of a hollowed out version of himself. And that's quite difficult to read in places. The world building is insane. Like, there is so much going on in this world, and it's so easy to follow. It's done in such a way where you never feel overwhelmed, you never feel confused at what's going on. The story drags you through it and drops in these little bits, and you just pick it up and move on and you roll with it, and it's really brilliantly executed. And I love it when a good book does that, particularly a fantasy or a sci-fi, where you're worried about name pronunciation, you're worried about keeping track of all the councils or all of the alien species or all of the mystical creatures, but you don't have to worry about that because it's done in such a way that it just rolls with the story. I very much enjoyed the way that Titus developed as the story went on. He starts as, if I can use a wrestling term, he starts as a babyface, but by the end of the story, he's gradually turning more heel, and he's kind of happy with that. And I like that. I like that he doesn't necessarily end the book as a good guy. It's all subjective, of course, but that's the feeling that I got. And of course, there are 2 more in the series, and I am already planning to get the second one when my royalties come through from KDP. And the third one isn't out yet, but when it is out, I will be also reading that. I loved this entire book, and I am eager to get onto the next one. I gave it 5 stars. It's only my second 5-star book of the year so far. Absolutely fantastic. I encourage you to read it very, very much. Very much. If you've read all of Red Rising and you're waiting for the 7th one, Red God, which nobody knows when it's coming, this is an excellent gap filler. So honestly, go check it out. It's really, really, really good. Really good. So if you want your book reviewed in one of these, you know by now, go to the bio, go to the link, fill in the form, and we might see your book in the next one.